Hello students, thanks for watching. Today we're going to talk about organizational objectives. CocaCola is one of the largest companies in the world. Everyone knows their product and their brand. They are instantly recognizable. And if you went to their website, you would see some things like this: refresh the world, inspire moments of optimism and happiness. And this is part of their mission statement. It tries to tell us what Coca-Cola is about. You would also see a vision statement, and it might have things like this: be a great place to work, anticipate and satisfy people's desires and needs. Let's talk about these two terms. Mission statements are typically in the form of a paragraph, and they try to answer three questions. What does the company do? Who do they do it for? And what is the benefit of their product and their actions? Whereas a vision statement really talks about what will happen if the mission is carried out. It's essentially like the mission is the path that we're on, and the vision is the X that marks the spot, what we will arrive at. It's important to note that if you go and you look at mission statements and vision statements of various companies around the world, they might not look exactly like this formula. They don't read our book, but it's pretty close, and for the purposes of this course, that's what we need to know. For example, if you were to make a YouTube channel, you might come up with a mission statement like this: delivering the highest quality business management lectures for all students online in order to promote learning at home. Your vision statement: everyone gets a 7. Take a look at these two mission statements. This is for Twitter and Toyota. I thought these were pretty good. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video and read them. Okay, after mission and vision statements, we need to understand aims and objectives. These are more about the activities that businesses will do and less about the purpose. The mission and vision statements talk about the purpose of the company. Aims and objectives are things that you will actually do as a company. And in order to understand this, we look at the hierarchy of objectives. And I'll stop and look at this for a second. And this kind of symbolizes the structure of a company. You have at the very top the aim. There's only one, and it's very non-specific. At the very bottom, you'll have individual targets. This is where you have lots of different employees working. So it might walk through a system like this. You have a few corporate objectives. You have a few more divisional objectives as you have more divisions. You have a few more departmental objectives because you have more departments. And then eventually it gets down to the individual who has a target they need to meet. Let's run through this really quick. Increase market share. This is a good example of a common corporate aim. This is what we want to do. We want to increase our market share as a company. Well, at the corporate objective level, it's going to get a little more specific. They might want to increase sales at a rate 5% higher than the growth of the market. If you notice, they're bringing numbers in now, and they're being a little more specific. This is essentially what increasing market share looks like. You want to increase your rate of sales higher than the market itself, and they'd like to do it by 5%. At the divisional level, it gets even more specific. Within each region, we want to increase sales by 10% without increasing overheads. We'll talk a little more about what overheads are later in the course, but we want to increase our sales by 10% within each region is good enough for now. Then we go down to the departmental objectives. These are specific to the business, the functional departments that we learned previously in the course. And we'll talk about marketing in this one. Marketing wants to increase promotion via social media by 15%. This is something that they want to do. And at the individual level, let's increase our total number of clients by 10%. So this is an example of a corporation, a large business, and the different aims and objectives that they might have, hypothetically. Once again, just note that they get more specific as you get down to the individual target level. Let's look at another example of departmental objectives and individual targets. In this case, we're looking at human resources. They will have their own departmental objectives and their own individual targets. And here, they want to recruit 2 social media public relations specialists. And the individual targets, they want to increase the number of customers who found their products through social media by 10%. These are specific to human resources, and they are kind of related to the marketing objectives and targets that we saw previously. Which leads us to the next question, is how do we make good aims and objectives? And this is something you might have seen before in other courses, but you want to follow what they call the SMART criteria. And it's an acronym. Let's talk about what it stands for. First, your aims and objectives need to be specific. They need to be specific to the business. They need to be clear and detailed. You don't want to say vague things like, be a better company. That's not anything that's helpful to anyone, because, we move on to the next one, it needs to be measurable. You should have things that are quantitative based on numbers and percentages, because you can verify those figures and you can know when you meet them. If you're just trying to be a better business, different people might disagree. If you say we're going to increase sales by 10,000 units, it's easy to verify and prove that you've done that. Third one, things should be achievable. It should be realistic. You don't want to set aims and objectives that you can't meet, because it's not a motivator and it's not going to help anyone. Next, they need to be realistic and relevant. And what we mean by this is that our objectives should be closely connected to the people who have to carry them out. You don't want to create objectives that are more geared towards the marketing department and then give them to the finance department. It doesn't really make any sense to do that. Just like I wouldn't want to have objectives that are related to chemistry when I'm teaching business management. And finally, they need to be time specific. There needs to be a certain amount of time that it can be carried out and measured. If you set an objective that says I'm going to increase sales by 10,000 units, and you never say when you're going to do it by, you never fail to meet the objective. So that makes it a very ineffective objective. Okay, let's go back and look at our previous aims and objectives with a focus on these divisional objectives. Within each region, we want to increase sales by 10% without increasing overheads. Well, you might present this at your divisional meeting and say, this is what we need to do. And then it's time for people to come up with some ideas on how to actually do it. And people might say something like this. Increase attention on high margin items, or change the packaging, put it in a new package, or give it some new colors, or something like that. And these are examples of what we call strategies and tactics. Strategy is a long-term plan of action. These are things more specifically that we want to do. And tactics are what we're going to do right now. Okay, we've gone over a lot of terms, and let's talk about them real quick. First, a mission. That is the overall purpose of our business, our mission statement. Second, we have our vision. This is what we will look like if we accomplish our mission. It's the X that marks the spot. Aims are our long-term goals that we hope to achieve, but the key word there is activities that we will actually do. Objectives are short or medium-term targets. These are the more specific things that need to be carried out throughout the organization. Our strategies are detailed plans of action. And then tactics are the short-term things that we will do right now. So let's take a look at another example. We talked about this mission, delivering the highest quality business management lectures. The vision, everyone gets a 7. So how might we carry this further and be more organized? Well, one of our aims might be just survival. This is another common aim. Begin generating revenue from the channel after 2 years. The objective, well, how are we going to do that? Increase viewership by 10% each month. Finally, well, how are we going to do that? Well, let's release 20 more videos. And then we can work 5 hours a week. We can record on Saturday and release 1 video every 2 weeks. That would be our tactic, what we're going to do now. Okay, let's play a game. This is called Common Corporate aims. And what I want you to do is think about what are the most common aims that a corporation might set. These are the things that we want to do, the things that we want to accomplish in the long term. There are 7 of them. Go ahead and pause the video and try to come up with what you think the most common corporate aims would be. What do businesses want to do? Think about it. Okay, let's take a look at some of these answers. 1, profit. This is a common answer. A lot of people should have gotten this one. Businesses want to make a profit. They want to make the maximum amount of profit they possibly can. 2, growth. Maybe as a business we want to grow this year. We're going to put profits aside just a little bit and try to expand. Let's jump around. Maximizing short-term sales revenue. So let's just sell as much as we can in the next few months. It might not be about profit or growth, but we need to just get a lot of money in and just sell as much as we can soon. Increasing market share. This is about competition. We want to be a larger player in our industry and our market. Number 4, survival. This is common with sole trader businesses because they're not always thinking about growth or market share. They're thinking about keeping the doors open, beating the odds, and staying in business. Maximizing shareholder value. This is a very common one with a traded company. We want to make the shareholders happy. It's practically another way to say profit, but it's a little different and it's really more intended towards the shareholder audience. Let's make those people happy. And then finally, profit satisficing. This one's a little more complicated, and essentially what it means is you just want to be satisfied with your profits. A sole trader business, a small mom and pop restaurant, for example, they might not want to make the most amount of profits that are possible. They have other things they're considering, their quality of life, the quality of their product. They don't necessarily want the place to be packed all the time. They want to just be satisfied with the operation of their business. It's another common corporate aim. Okay, let's talk about a pretty important topic, and that's ethics. Ethics is a big part of the course. It's going to come up a lot. And there are many times if you're running a business where you're going to come across a decision that is pretty difficult to make because you don't know what is right and what is wrong, and you don't know exactly what to do. So, let's use an example. Our overseas factories are employing children and paying them very little. This is disturbingly common, and you have to figure out exactly what to do about it. You might immediately think, well, should we find a new factory? Should we keep using this one? What will happen if the kids lose their jobs? Clearly, we know child labor is wrong and we don't want children making our products, but what is going to happen to them if we make a change in our decision? It could actually be worse. What if we spend more money on production and we have to lay people off here in our corporate headquarters, and these people have families, and maybe we're barely making a profit as it is, and we don't want to go out of business because that's a bad thing and that might hurt people as well. But if we don't do anything, then people might boycott our product and tell people not to buy our stuff, and they might do other things like protest us. The government might fine us. Someone's going to start pressuring you and saying things like fair trade, and you just don't know what to do. You have to make an ethical decision. And it's almost like we need to add an 8th common corporate aim, and it needs to be ethical objectives because it's increasing in importance. Take CocaCola again. They have created a human rights policy, and a lot of people are doing this. They're adding things like this onto their website and telling people that this is what they're about. They're about diversity and no child labor and respect for human rights and healthy lifestyles. And so all of these are straight from the human rights policy of Coca-Cola. And you'll notice a lot of large corporations have lingo like this on their website because they're starting to get pushed in the direction of corporate social responsibility. This is a very important term, and you should use it frequently. Go to the grocery store and look at a bunch of packages like this. You'll see recycled or organic or cruelty free, fair trade. And companies are making decisions to buy organic and sell organic and to make sure that their products have not been tested on animals. But just as much as that, they're making sure that these labels are put on their packages and they're making sure that people know that they're a socially responsible corporation. And I want you to think about it kind of like this. If we want to evaluate whether a business is socially responsible or whether we ourselves are a socially responsible corporation, you essentially have on one side profits and on the other side corporate social responsibility. You can't be all about profits and all about corporate social responsibility. It doesn't work like that. Another way of thinking about it is on one side we have our shareholders, the people who want profits. And on the other side we have stakeholders. This is the topic of the next section in the course. But stakeholders are eventually everyone who is affected by what you do as a business. And they're more into corporate social responsibility. So you can choose, oh, as a business, do we want to be all the way over here for profits? Or maybe we want to be all the way over here for corporate social responsibility. And so that's a decision that you have to make. Where do you line up? A long time ago, everyone was about profits. If you go back to the Industrial Revolution, people wanted to make profits and they did whatever it took to make it. But in our modern times, there have been some things that have come along that have kind of pushed this needle towards the side of corporate social responsibility. The internet, social media, if they find out that your business is doing something wrong, they're going to tell everyone about it, and pressure groups are going to get motivated to come against you. The laws in different countries have started to push businesses to be more socially responsible. And then we have climate change and the UN and these large global issues that are really pressuring companies like Coca-Cola, that we've been using for example, to kind of go towards corporate social responsibility. So, you have a decision to make when you're running a business. Where are you going to be? You probably don't want to be on one extreme end or the other, but kind of somewhere in the middle. Okay, you're running a business, and one of these issues comes up. Oh, there are children working in our factories, and we don't exactly know what to do. Or you might even be like, we don't know who's making our products, and we don't know if we're a corporate, social, responsible company. We need help. Okay, well, you can call in what is called a social audit, and this is a business in its own, and they will come in and they will look at your business. They will take every aspect of your business, and they will tell you the impact that you have on society. They'll say, well, because you're doing X and Y, you're kind of right here. But if you want to be over here, all you really have to do are follow these annual targets and meet these objectives. So if you have people who are boycotting your company, you call in a social audit, you listen to what they have to say, you meet their targets, you put out some information like this, and hopefully the problem will go away. That's the idea behind social audits and meeting their annual targets. Okay, we've talked about a lot, but now we're going to figure out exactly how we set our corporate objectives in a world where every business is different, every person has different things that they want, and it's just not that easy to make these objectives. For example, you might ask yourself, are we a public or private sector business? Are we trying to get growth or are we trying to get profit? What is our corporate culture? This is a way of doing things. Are you an aggressive company? Are you socially minded? Who are you? The legal form of the business that we've talked about. Are you a corporation with stockholders? Are you a partnership? Are you an NGO? That's important. Are you a large or small business? Are you in this for the short or long term? Have you been around for 100 years or only one? These are things that will change your objectives and will determine the type of objectives that you're going to set. So maybe you need to change your objectives. Maybe you have satisfied your prior objectives. Maybe the business environment has changed. You have new employees and you need to do that. So how are you going to do it? There are two business tools that we're going to talk about. One is the SWOT analysis and then Ansoff's matrix. Let's talk about SWOT analysis first. SWOT is an acronym and it stands for these four things: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you can look at it like this. Strengths and weaknesses are things that are internal. They're happening inside your company. And opportunities and threats are external. They're things that are happening outside in society that you have little control over, but you need to be aware of. Let's look at these. First, we have strengths. You have to ask yourselves, what are you doing well? What advantages do you have over your competitors? Are you good at your product, your workforce? What do you do well? But you also need to be aware of your weaknesses. What are you doing poorly, inefficiently? Maybe you need more training. So these are things internally that you need to look at, your strengths and weaknesses. Externally, what opportunities are out there? Is there a new product, a new technology? Are there potential areas for you to expand into a new market, a new place to sell your product? Are there threats out there? Is your competitor releasing a new product? Are there price wars going on? What's developing out there in the outside world that might harm you as a business? And it's important to really know, you go through the SWOT analysis, you make lists of all these four things, but a SWOT analysis isn't going to help you do a whole lot. It's just a good starting point. It helps to get all the information together that you might need in order to then make a decision about what objectives you need to meet and what you need to do as a business. The second thing is Ansoff's matrix. And Ansoff's matrix talks about different products and different markets. And essentially, there are only two types of markets. Markets are places where you might sell your product, and you have either been selling it in a place, and therefore it's an existing market, or you haven't been selling it in a place, and it's a new market. If you only sell your product in Japan, and you decide that you want to expand your product and start selling it in Mexico, well, Mexico is a new market, and Japan is an existing market. And we can look at the products in the exact same way. Products are either new products or they are existing products. If you are a shoe company and you're making a certain running shoe and you've been selling it, well, that's an existing product. And maybe you decide, maybe we should make socks as well. And you've never made them before, it's a new product. And we can look at it in a matrix form like this. When we have an existing product in an existing market, we've already penetrated that market. So we call that market penetration. If we want to sell a new product in that existing market, well, we call that product development. Let's develop a new product and sell it in a way that we're familiar with. If we need to have market development, well, we're trying to sell existing products that we already know that sell in a new market. We're going to develop this market. And then finally, we have diversification. These are new products in new markets, and they are the most risky of all. So that is pretty much it. That was a lot of information about organizational objectives. I really thank you for watching, and I will see you in class.